Hello, everybody. Welcome to whatever the heck this show is, where Josh and I are going to talk about Bethesda being acquired by Microsoft. The internet thinks it's evil, but the other half thinks it's awesome. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Corey.
So,
Thank you for having me.
Josh, you know I wouldn't have anybody else talking about this in this particular subject.
This particular announcement.
Especially since this is kind of like part 2 of one that we did a long time ago.
It's part 2, and it feels like part 3 is probably coming this summer.
Oh, I know. So in case you've been sleeping under a rock for the last, 5 to 7 months, Microsoft has acquired Bethesda and ZeniMax and all of their studios. So they did a kind of like a reveal event type thing today, where they were kind of talking about their plan, like kind of like their plans, but more of like a celebration of the studios and kind of what their plans are with bringing the games to Game Pass, which by the time you hear this, they will already be there.
I downloaded a few of them before we started, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually am going to do that myself because there's a ton of games. I've tweeted out today, like, I know a lot of people are kind of sour, but a lot of people are also celebrating this, right? It's kind of like there's a pretty massive divide, but I put out there today, I'm like, look, it's an exciting day to be an Xbox fan. I'm not the biggest Bethesda fan, but I realize kind of what their studios and what they've done for the video game industry and how revolutionary some of their things have been. Doom, Elder Scrolls, the kind of the reimagining of Fallout with Fallout 3.
The reimagining of Wolfenstein, the second reimagining, really.
Yeah. So, yeah, Bethesda's important. And for Xbox to kind of have this under their belt is pretty awesome. For me, I think it's awesome, personally.
This is, I mean, we've never seen an acquisition like this before, right? This would be the equivalent of somebody going out and buying out Sega, or, because I'm not going to say it's like on the level of EA or something like that, but this would be like buying Sega or Konami or something like that in terms of like legacy franchises that like everybody knows. If you're in gaming, you know these. Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Wolfenstein, Dishonored, Prey, Quake, like Rage. Like, you've probably heard these names, even if you're not super familiar with the actual games. Like, you know them. And the debate for the last God knows how many months, this was back in September, so about 8 months or so, really. 7-8 months, has been, how exclusive are these things going to be? And kudos to Phil Spencer. Phil tackled that immediately.
Yeah, I have the quote here. I'm just going to read it real quick, and then we can kind of bounce off it. It says, so obviously I can't sit here and say every Bethesda game is exclusive, because we know that's not true. There's contractual obligations that we're going to see through, as we always do in every one of these instances. We have games that exist on other platforms, and we're going to support those games on the platforms they are on. There's communities of players. We love those communities, and we'll continue to invest in them. And even in the future, there might be some things that have their contractual things or legacy on different platforms that will go do. But then later on, he says, but if you're an Xbox customer, the thing I want you to know is this is about delivering great exclusive games for you that ship on platforms where Game Pass exists. And that's our goal, and that's why we're doing this. That's the root of this partnership that we're building, and the creative capability we are able to bring to the market for Xbox customers is going to be the best it's ever been for Xbox after we're done here.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't get more clear-cut than that. They're going to honor the existing deals, which, as of right now, all we are taking this to mean is Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop.
Yeah.
In terms of existing third-party exclusivity.
I would almost loop the Indiana Jones game into this.
I was gonna address that one separately, but we'll jump straight to Indy. Indy is the big question mark, I think. The fact that it was shown in the Bethesda acquisition video on Monday, the history of Bethesda video, whereas to my knowledge, Ghostwire and Deathloop were not in that video.
They were not in that video.
that to me almost like I'm much more willing to go on the side of I think this will actually be a Game Pass exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even then it will probably be a timed exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that one will that is the only game beyond Ghostwire that I think will come to another console.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the only reason why it might be exclusive is, well, A, Microsoft has the money to give Lucasfilm to pay for that exclusivity.
Yes.
But 2, PlayStation has Uncharted and doesn't really need this type of adventure, right? They like that. I was talking to some people at work today who were kind of, they're not 100% up on it like we are, but they're like, yeah, the Indiana Jones game, I wonder if it'll come to PlayStation, but we have Uncharted, so I don't really care if it does or not.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to continue to be a tricky situation until they actually show it off for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only other one that I think there might have been a deal on.
Yeah.
Not that I think it'll be timed for PlayStation or anything, but that, hey, you have to release this on everything. Like, you can have it for 6 months or a year, but you have to eventually put it on everything else.
Mm-hmm. The only thing
is Lucasfilm probably wants that.
Yeah. But the thing is like, I know,
but Microsoft has the money to pony up.
Yeah, so... and I know like Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm kind of operate separately from Disney, but they're still under the Disney umbrella, and Disney's not afraid to give exclusives where they need to go, right? Ultimate Alliance 3 was Switch
really
exclusive.
Since John Drake went and joined Disney's publishing side, things have really changed
in
the way that's the restructuring of Lucasfilm Games. That's the restructuring of how Marvel handles their things. But I mean, Marvel has doled out exclusivity for Spider-Man and for Ultimate Alliance 3. It is not outside the realm of possibility for Indy to end up as an Xbox PC exclusive down the road, especially considering, like, they kept noting, like, throughout this thing, like, there has always been a partnership between Bethesda and Microsoft. That's why we were so shocked back in June when they revealed that Deathloop and Ghostwire were going to be year-long timed exclusives. That was shocking to me. Like, we've never seen that with a Bethesda-owned property. And then, of course, 3 months later, we find out about the merger and things like that. Like, that's really awesome. They're going to continue to support existing games. So games that they still have promised to deliver content for. So ESO and Fallout 76, like they said last year, they're going to go forward unimpeded. Parity, the same content will come to PlayStation. You're not going to have to wait. There'll probably be some Game Pass perks for crowns or for atoms. You'd be stupid not to do that, like to get more people interested in playing games.
Yeah, plus like I'm sure they have like a paid currency like Destiny does, right? If you're a Game Pass subscriber, you get a discount on Destiny Silver. I'm sure you're going to see something like that through Game Pass.
Yeah, you already get that on both of those.
Okay, yeah.
It was already on there because when I was playing some ESO, I bought a small pack of crowns to get a mount. So you already have that. It is a oh god, I gotta remember because I haven't played in a while. I think it's a dwarven horse.
Ooh,
that might have actually been something that came with the Morrowind pack when I downloaded it. I don't know. I've got like a little dwarven spider or something that follows me around too. Something along those lines. And then Doom, the part 2 of Ancient Gods for Doom Eternal comes out next week. They're going to do the full trailer reveal on the 15th, and then they're going to drop it on Thursday or Friday of next week. So that's cool. That kind of fulfills that obligation, but that's just the year 1 pass. I think they're going to do some more for Doom Eternal. I don't really know, though. I imagine we'll find out at E3 about that. But he's basically beyond all that. It's exclusive. Like, that to me, the only thing more that Phil could have done to underscore that for you to understand is saying Starfield is exclusive.
Yeah, like start listing the next games, which we when. Yeah.
And Starfield is a really unique one. Like, it kept being brought up in the interviews and the acquisition announcements. They specifically kept mentioning Starfield. Phil Spencer kept mentioning it. He didn't talk about Elder Scrolls. He didn't talk about Fallout. He didn't talk about Wolfenstein or Prey or anything like that. He is talking about Starfield because that all eyes are on the next original IP from Bethesda. It's their first one since their inception. That is going to be an exclusive. Today cemented that, in my opinion. Whether it comes out this year or comes out next year, it's exclusive. And that's probably the biggest dagger you could possibly throw. I've seen a lot of people have been, coming into the comments. Corey, you and I were talking about this beforehand. into people's replies, just, and it's fanboy nonsense, on both sides. Like, oh my god, Xbox is the best place ever now, or oh my god, like PlayStation still has The Last of Us and God of War, and there's just nothing at Microsoft that can compete with that, even with Bethesda. And it's like, dude, this is where it all comes down to what you want to play. Like, if you want those story-driven single-player, third-person action experiences, you're going to go to PlayStation. If you want a place where you're going to play multiplayer games and Western RPGs and shooters, you're coming to Xbox. Like, that's probably going to be where your split is at.
Yeah.
Who cares? There's so many amazing exclusives. But even more beyond just the exclusives and the IPs, when you look at the talent that joined Microsoft this week.
Yeah.
Pete Hines is just an incredible host, incredible marketing guy. There's a reason why Bethesda stuff always comes off clean and concise.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's because of him and Aaron Cozy, who is the global head of communications for them.
Yeah.
Like, the two of them are just awesome. Like, I'm sorry, I like Aaron Greenberg, but Aaron, you can learn a thing or two from these guys about how to properly build hype and set expectations.
Yeah.
You have Todd Howard, of course, joining. Like, we don't have to talk about Todd Howard. We don't have to talk about Shinji Mikami joining. Like, those are incredible. You have the team at id Tech is part of Microsoft now. Phil talked about that during the roundtable too, about how he's looking forward to them using that for future first-party games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, outside of Unreal Engine, which is already contracted to a couple studios at Microsoft, I don't know if they ever use another external engine again.
Yeah.
Between Slipspace and this and whatever the engine is they've built for Forza. Yeah. I don't know if you really go to another one. Like, obviously you can, but...
Well, I mean, a lot of their stuff is running on Unreal, though.
It is, but I mean, you have ID Tech now.
Yeah.
Like, I personally would love to see... I was talking with our friend Ray about this. He says, imagine Halo running in that engine. And I said, honestly, for me, because they're already building a new engine for Halo with Slipspace. Mm-hmm. I said, imagine putting Gears 6 into that engine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say that would be way more of like a Gears thing, especially with
how it accentuates like darks and like horror elements. Like,
well, not even that. Like, even when you chainsaw like the guys, or you do the brutal kills or whatever, the way they like blow up and they're like they light up when they blow up and stuff. Like, imagine Gears 3 with the Lambent, right? Like, that's kind of got the same feel as some of the enemies in Doom. Like, it feels like that a good fit too.
Yeah, I mean, just like there's so much stuff. It's pretty clear they're not done with Dishonored or with Rage, considering how much they were shown.
God, Rage was shown. God.
A lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever get a Rage 3, but it was shown. It's clear that like they still probably want to do something with that property in the future.
Well, a lot of these titles are getting Series X and S enhancements. I think they said Rage 2 is getting it. Wolfenstein 2 is for sure. Prey is. I'm pretty sure they said Dishonored 2 is.
Yeah.
So.
And then Aaron Greenberg let it slip that a lot of these titles are also getting FPS Boost.
Mm-hmm. Especially the older titles, the backwards compatible titles.
Right. And that's where FPS Boost is really taking like the biggest strides. I think like they're doing it on a few of the Xbox One titles, but it's really for 360 backwards compatible games, I think. So there is no reality in which Fallout 3 and Oblivion are not the first two that get that.
Right.
I would imagine they'll probably bake one in for Skyrim.
Yeah.
So that, hey, you're not having to use the mod to get it to run at 60 frames that disables achievements.
Right.
I mean, that's a great reason to go back and play these games, with the DLCs, all that. This, just like what this means for Microsoft is you're not going to see a huge change probably in the first 18 months. Mm-hmm. Bethesda is largely going to carry on as is because as they addressed it today, legally they could not make arrangements. That's why E3 is going to technically be two separate shows probably, but I wouldn't be shocked to see them like merged into a mega show. Like you start out with the Bethesda showcase, start out with like your multiplats there, and then like where the Bethesda show would end and you do a Starfield demo. Imagine following that Starfield demo up with Halo Infinite.
Mm-hmm. Or
going straight into Forza or Compulsion's game or Everwild or Hellblade or something like that. Like, there's so much you can do here.
Dude, Microsoft has so many studios now. This is insane.
They have 23 as of today. They now have 23 studios, and that's not counting all the separate teams at these studios or separate branches. Bethesda Game Studios alone has 4 offices. Arcane has 2. ZeniMax Online has 2 now. id has 2 technically. They got 1 in Germany, and that's the one that co-developed Rage 2 and has helped out with the Wolfenstein reboots with Machine Games. I would bet money that they are probably helping with Indiana Jones right now. Tango out in Japan. Phil finally got his Asian studio.
Yeah.
With Shinji Mikami attached. You literally can't ask for much better than that.
Right.
Short of getting like the Final Fantasy 14's director or something. You can't really ask for much better than that.
Unless Microsoft bought Square Enix or Sega or Atlas or something. This is probably the closest thing they're going to get to that.
It's something that appeals to both Japanese gamers and to a worldwide Western audience.
Yeah.
I feel and Tango, I think, is quietly the most unique part of this merger. It gives Microsoft an in-house dedicated horror studio and Japanese studio. That very well could help them create some inlands over there. We know they've been talking with Sega. There's been all the Sega rumors. But in the short term, 20 games got added to Game Pass. They'll be here by the time you're listening to this, they'll be live, like Corey said. And it's a plethora of history from these studios. I mean, going all the way back to the first Doom.
Yeah.
There's really not there are some notable titles missing. There's about a notable one from each franchise.
Yeah.
That is missing. You're missing Death of the Outsider, the standalone DLC for the standalone game from Dishonored. You're missing Fallout. Fallout 3 is inexplicably missing. We don't know why. You're missing. You're not missing any Elder Scrolls game. Well, the first 2, but we don't really count those. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Missing Return to Castle, Wolfenstein, and a couple of others. Yeah, the Wolfenstein 3D. The Quake games, the original Rage. You're missing those, and I imagine those. Quake is the only one that's kind of at some point Activision owned the rights. Activision and Raven, but I imagine the others will probably come with FPS Boost, or they'll have those as bigger titles to drop in the coming months leading up to E3.
Yeah. Well, before Bethesda had their own publishing arm, didn't 2K publish Oblivion in Fallout 3?
They published Oblivion. They did not publish Fallout 3.
Okay. I knew they published a couple things.
To my knowledge.
Yeah. Okay.
To my knowledge, they did not do Fallout 3. I think Fallout 3 is where they started doing their own publishing.
Okay.
Because they started acquiring almost immediately after Fallout 3.
Right. Because that's when, yeah.
They got id. Id was the first acquisition.
And Rage was the first game that they published, right? From id. So
that was 2009 and 2011 respectively, I think.
Yeah. I wonder why Fallout 3 isn't on this list. Or the original Prey isn't on here either.
The original Prey is tied up in rights. 2K has that, I think.
Yeah.
That is one I think definitively they have, and studio at Shuttered and everything else. From what I understand, that game may be lost forever.
Yeah.
Just with coding mishaps. I think there was a fire at the offices at some point.
Right.
There was a lot of stuff that happened around the legacy of that game.
Yeah.
But I think these other bigger ones will come eventually. I would not be surprised to see them go back, because they've said they want to dip back into the backwards catalog and we might start this program up again now that Series X is out and we're doing FPS Boost. I Return to Castle Wolfenstein from the Xbox. Please, for the love of God, bring that. That is the one game I am asking.
It's amazing. That game's amazing.
That is one of the only original Xbox games we still have. We have a 360 purely for that and Guitar Hero right now. Just to play those games. That's how much I love the Xbox Return to Castle Wolfenstein game.
Yeah, that game was
that's
awesome.
really the one that introduced it to modern audiences, I would say.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about the 2009 one. Nobody wants that one.
I thought people liked Ravens. Didn't Raven do that one?
I didn't like it, at least.
Oh, I thought...
It got very middle of the road reviews. When you talk about Wolfenstein, people think you're talking about the third game in the series, which is 3D, the first one that id made.
Right.
They think you're talking about Return to Castle Wolfenstein, the first actual 3D one on the Xbox, or they think you're talking about Machine Games.
Right.
So that's why I said it's the third iteration of this we've gone through. We're almost at the third iteration of Doom, basically.
Yeah.
I would argue this is the third.
Yeah.
I feel like, and you and I talked about this before on other shows, those franchises are probably ready to be put on ice for a little bit.
Especially Doom. If they're doing these like kind of smaller smaller standalone DLCs, I feel like Doom is going to go on hiatus for a little while. Maybe this is where they jump on Rage. Maybe they do like a full on reboot of Rage and like give us a real Rage game.
I'd be okay with that. More like in tune with the first one. I'd be okay with that.
Or you know what they could bring back?
If you say Quake.
Nope.
What?
Remember that awful multiplayer game Brink?
Fuck you. Nobody wants that. I really would like another Quake. I talked about this with on Twitter several months ago with our friend Luke Lore, the Insipid Ghost, and we were talking about what if Quake Champions finally comes to console, since it never has, and they add like Marcus Phoenix, Chief, Arbiter.
This could be the shooter version of Killer Instinct, where they just add everybody.
Dude, I'm here for it. Put fucking Dovahkiin in there.
Give me a Battletoad.
But make him in like the goofy style that he's in the new games.
Yeah.
But if Banjo and Kazooie are in there, I'll lose my shit. This could be hilarious. Like, don't do Smash Brothers, do a shooter version of it.
Right.
All joking aside, like in terms of things I think that'll happen, they're probably going to go quiet for the rest of the year. We'll see things at E3, obviously. They said they weren't ready to talk about what Roundhouse and AlphaDog are working on yet. My dream is that AlphaDog will do an iOS and Android version of Gears Tactics, make a mobile game out of it, or a twin-stick shooter. I think that could be really cool.
That game already existed. It was called Gears Pop, and nobody played it. And
we're going to make a good one. We're going to make a game people actually want to play that's not based on $10 desk toys. I think that would be really cool. Maybe like do something that's a much better version of what Spartan Assault tried to be. Roundhouse, we have no idea. The implication I got from Roundhouse when Aaron said they weren't ready to show what they're working on yet. That's why they didn't get videos at all. They showed pictures of the team at both of those studios. Is that Roundhouse may be working on their own IP?
Yeah.
Which I would imagine. I mean, we've seen Microsoft is willing to let smaller teams do whatever they want to do, as long as you sell them on it. I mean, Grounded is a 12-man team. Josh Sawyer's got a 7-man team over at Obsidian. Project Mara is a small one. Bleeding Edge was made by 15 people.
I mean, Hellblade was only made by like 20-something people.
Yeah, Hellblade was small. I mean, Hellblade has like quadrupled the size of its team.
Yeah.
Over at Ninja Theory.
That makes me think that game's going to be bigger than we think it is.
I mean, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Like, when you're talking about the future of Xbox, like, Phil said once he wanted to have just tons of marquee titles coming out repeatedly. And I think
he said he wanted something, a first-party title every 3 months?
He wanted one like every 3 to 4 months. I think with the amount of studios and teams that you have working on stuff now, like, you may have a AAA game every, like, 2 to 3 months, honestly. I think that timeline's going to, especially once you hit 2022 with all the delays out of this year, it's going to be overflowing. Now the question is, can you overflow with quality? You need quality over quantity. It doesn't mean anything if your games come out as half-polished trash. Or, like random difficulty spikes, or the online doesn't work, or it's half-baked. I mean, you can't release, if you're going to have all these studios, and you legitimately have some of the greatest studios in the world now underneath your umbrella. You really do. You have the marquee franchise FPS shooters and Western RPG franchises under your roof. You can't put out a Bleeding Edge again.
Yeah.
You can't put out a Battletoads.
Right.
Like, I'm fine with AA games, but it's like Battletoads, like, it was fun for what it was. It probably needed about another 4 to 6 months in the oven, though.
Right.
Easily.
I mean, you think about Game Pass now, right? Like, you just think about Game Pass as it is now with the acquisition of Bethesda. You have EA Play, like all the EA Play stuff. You have all the Bethesda stuff. You have Destiny. You have, some of the Warner Brothers stuff like Batman and Shadow of War.
Justice.
Right? Yeah. It's...
You cannot... I already felt you couldn't make the argument after last summer's showcase. I felt like you couldn't make the argument that Game Pass is not worth it. I've felt that for quite a while, pretty much since Game Pass Ultimate was introduced. I'm like, you can't really make the argument this isn't worth it. And then with the addition of EA Play, you still had people saying it's not worth it. The addition of xCloud, it's still not worth it. The addition of now of Bethesda, you still have people saying, literally, I saw 3 different comments saying this to different people, and they were all from different people saying, Game Pass hasn't wowed me in a while. And it's like, okay, listen, here's the deal. It's like a Netflix, a Hulu, or like a Disney Plus or whatever. You're not going to be wowed by every single title that hits it. Like, I'll admit, I was underwhelmed at the March announcements with them saying, oh, basically it's sports month.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care at all about that. But Star Wars Squadrons is coming. Had I not already played it, awesome. That'd be right up my alley. And I think we all knew they were in a holding pattern waiting for Bethesda.
Mm-hmm.
But it's clear they have a deal to bring 2K. This is the second or third 2K game they've brought to the service. They have the EA Play deal. We don't know how long the EA Play deal goes on for. I would wager probably about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be much longer. Now, I don't think Microsoft wants to keep it up longer than that, because by then all their cogs are going.
Mm-hmm.
The Bethesda deal is here. It was not here when they announced EA Play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, they even have a sweet deal with Sega with all the Yakuza games, and Square with the Final Fantasy back catalog. Like,
yeah, we have
Kingdom
both of
Hearts.
those, you have both of those deals, trying to appeal to a worldwide international audience. Like, that's huge, not just in the US, but like in Korea. They're trying to really hit Game Pass over there right now in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
With the Samsung partnerships and everything else. But we've heard the rumors about Ubisoft also, and it's like, I think it's a fair question today to ask between this and we know some of the bigger third-party partnership games that they're working with. The gunk from the SteamWorld team, Stalker II. Like, that game's been in development hell for years, and it seems like Microsoft is kind of like helping force it along. Crossfire from Remedy and Smilegate. Like,
Bright Memory Infinite, if that turns out the way that we kind of hope it will, and not what we played in the $7 tech demo.
That game has fallen so far down my list of hype at this point because of that tech demo.
It's just such a shame because it's such a cool idea.
It's an awesome concept. It's a game that was tailor-made for me, and I just hate it. You've got tons of ID at Xbox games coming that are debuting on the service.
Right.
I'm not going to say any of them because I don't want to misspeak here, but you've got big third-party partnerships with some of these games. Some of these indies that have been anticipated for years. 12 Minutes, Tunic, Lake, Last Stop. You've got all those coming. At a certain point, Game Pass Ultimate is going to have to increase its price.
Mm-hmm.
And Microsoft has to be extremely careful about how they do this, because they tried increasing gold on us, and every last one of us revolted on it, rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
I feel if you're going to increase the price of Game Pass Ultimate, which subsequently I would say base Game Pass will probably get raised from like, is it like $7 now, or is it 10?
It's 10.
That it'll probably stay at 10, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them increasing Game Pass Ultimate and saying, okay.
Or let me throw this at you. Like, okay, EA Play, maybe that deal runs out, maybe it doesn't. What if they go the Amazon Luna route and like, here's what Game Pass Ultimate is, and then you can have Game Pass Ultimate plus Ubisoft plus I don't know who else has a service
I
at
could
this
see
point.
them doing add-ons. I absolutely could.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what EA Play will eventually be. Because, EA Play by itself was only $30 a year. I 100% had been signed up for like 3 or 4 years on that.
Yeah, I was too.
I've had it since the first Gamescom when it went into beta. And they were like, hey, if you have the software beta, you can get into EA Access early.
Mm-hmm.
I hit that sign-up button and gave them my credit card info so fucking fast, it wasn't even funny.
Yeah.
If Ubisoft does that, I would probably do a Ubisoft sub too, because I like those games, but I don't like buying them.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of you get a service. Okay, you get it. You play the game you want, the game or two you want, and then you cancel it.
Yeah.
I'm the guy who does that. Like, understanding each time I do this, I'm going to have to pay like $7 or $8. Okay, cool. I'd rather pay that $7 or $8 than go out and buy this game for $30 or $40 6 months after it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather do something like that. But I feel if you're going to increase the price of Ultimate, we're having this conversation now because it's going to have to be had a couple times this year.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think they're increasing the price during 2021. By E3 2022, though, when you've got Perfect Dark, Gears 6, Fable, Avowed, and you've got Elder Scrolls coming up on the horizon, get ready to start ponying up more cash.
I mean, the only way this is sustainable, right, is if you have more than a certain amount of people subscribing to it, right? Which they're seeing numbers increase, right? And it just feels like they're flooding this service to get more people in, because the more you offer, the more people are likely to jump in, right? Like,
even today, I've just seen a ton of people going, I guess I'm buying a Series S.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess they were holding out hope that Phil Spencer was going to come out and say, no, we're still going to put everything that you love on PS5. Mm-hmm. No, you don't spend $7.5 billion to put your shit on other platforms. If you wanted that, why not just enter into a long-term partnership with them a la EA Play?
Right.
That's kind of been at the crux of what a lot of us have been saying since September. Like, this is a different deal. Microsoft just bought a publishing division on top of that because they need help managing all of these. They basically doubled their studios overnight.
Right.
Like, you have to do this. Not doubled. They went up by 33%, roughly 33 to 40% more studios overnight with this deal. This is huge. And I mean, when you factor in the EA Play marketing deals, they are probably getting the marketing on Battlefield, Mass Effect, and Dragon Age. Mm-hmm. That's bonkers.
Yeah.
Literally, like, the only major first-person shooter.
And the next Star Wars, the Jedi Fallen Order 2 or whatever, probably.
And presumably they're getting it for Fallen Order 2. They had it for Fallen Order 1.
Yeah.
They had it for I believe they had it for Squadrons.
I don't
remember.
They had it
for I think they had it for Squadrons as well. But I mean, like, a marketing deal doesn't mean like you do a full-on blitz. It just means like, hey, we've got the branding on the trailers.
Yeah.
You know? That means they have every major first-person shooter under their umbrella, at least with a marketing deal of some sort, outside of Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because that includes Destiny also.
Yeah, they don't have Call of Duty. They don't have Fortnite. Apex is kind of like neutral.
Fortnite doesn't really need a marketing deal at this point.
No, it doesn't. But Epic has the deal with Sony, though. That's what I'm more getting.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, in terms of Western RPGs, like, it's basically like CD Projekt Red, but even then, they still did the marketing on Cyberpunk and Witcher. Mm-hmm. Like, there's not a whole lot. Like, they are clearly... Microsoft is doing what they've needed to do for years, and they're finally doubling down on what they've been good at, which is going back to the OG Xbox and to the 360 of first-person shooters, online multiplayer experiences, and huge Western RPGs. Mm-hmm. With some other stuff sprinkled in. You've got a Psychonauts here. You've got an Everwild here. You've got whatever the fuck Project Mara ends up being over here. You've got a Hellblade. Like, you've got all these different experiences coming under this umbrella. And I mean, like, we're seeing this with Microsoft and Sony, trying to diversify their portfolios, but also, like, quadrupling down on what they know they do good. Mm-hmm. And that's what you want to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
But Elder Scrolls 6 is 100% going to be an exclusive. Today should put any doubt that was going to happen to rest.
Yeah, it's so funny. The top thing on like 3 different websites I'm looking at is do you think Elder Scrolls 6 will be exclusive to Xbox?
The answer should be yes and fuck yes.
Yeah. I mean, all these, like, anything that hasn't been kind of re-revealed or revealed again, like, that's going to be exclusive to Xbox.
Yeah. No, and Phil's pretty much said that, but, like, I don't think he slammed the door completely on things appearing on other consoles too, but it's pretty clear, like, these games will play the best, you will have the most benefits from playing these on Xbox, etc. Mm-hmm. If we decide to bring them to other platforms, it'll basically be out of goodwill. Like, I don't think Starfield ever shows up. I don't think another Fallout or another Elder Scrolls ever goes. I think they're going to point to 76 and ESO and go, you have these experiences. Mm-hmm. We're not bringing another one over.
Yeah. You
have these. If you want to play these, get a PC, get an Xbox. You can play it on your phone or your tablet now. Mm-hmm. Like, Game Pass and xCloud are going to start being embedded in TVs this year.
You know what's crazy, though? Like, he didn't really refer to Xbox. He just said Game Pass. He said these experiences are going to be available where Game Pass is available.
But it's about driving subscriptions too, right?
Yeah, I know. But it was just it was really like the first time like they've started acknowledging Game Pass is the platform and the box is where you play it instead of Xbox. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean, and I think that comes from, doubling down on, like on the mobile experience, especially with iOS's issues getting sorted out finally,
I know, thank God.
seemingly. We'll have confirmation on the 26th, hopefully, that is coming in April.
Hmm.
We know the Android experience has been there for a while now. I personally would rather be doing, if I'm going to do it on mobile, it's not going to be on my phone, it's going to be on my iPad.
Hmm.
But when he says anywhere the Game Pass is available, like I've already seen some people run with this and go, "Oh my God, like what if they bring Game Pass to the Switch Pro?" I'm like, it's not going to happen.
No, no.
It's not going to happen. But I'll tell you something right now: if Nintendo's executives are not looking at this right now and going, "We should do a service just of our games from like NES to the Wii,"
Hmm.
they're out of their fucking minds.
Hmm.
You are out of your mind to not be wanting to do that just for your retro stuff.
Hmm.
Like, I'm pretty sure at least 10, 15 million of us would sign up to play classic Nintendo games every month.
They were doing
I would pay
okay.
$15 a month.
They were doing okay with the NES and SNES stuff, but like, where's my N64 and GameCube stuff? Where's my Game Boy Advance stuff?
That's what the majority of us want, I feel, is N64 and GameCube.
And like Game Boy and Game Boy Advance stuff, I think.
I would prefer Game Boy Advance at this point. The only stuff I care about from Game Boy Color has been re-released so many times at this point.
I wonder if they would just make that all one thing, the Game Boy one.
Dude, I would hope so. It's just like that seems like, not to go off on a Nintendo tangent, but I feel like that's got to be a pretty obvious solution. I mean, we've seen Sony basically countering this with, "Hey, here's the PS Plus collection," which, to be fair, it's not anything extra. It is included with your PlayStation Plus, but you can't call that a Game Pass competitor, in my opinion.
Mm-mm.
You just can't. That's a benefit of PS Plus. Cool. But I'd rather just fork out for Game Pass and get all my first-party games and get a ton of third-party games and get a lot of indies that come and debut on the platform. Mm-hmm. I'm always, every time I open up Game Pass, I'm finding something new to download. I may not ever even get to it.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I've downloaded so many things off of Game Pass that I want to try or want to play at some point. And it's like, I'm never going to get to this, but it's here. It's here.
It's like the argument that Game Pass destroys games or destroys studios, it's just been proven to be false at this point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, how many subscribers are there at Game Pass at least right now? Like almost 20, 17, 18 million?
18. We're at 18.
18 million times 18. Like, I don't know, what, averaging $10 a month?
Yeah,
right?
I never pay full price. So let's take, for example, let's average it to 18 million people paying $12 a month over 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
That is $2.5 billion. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That is more than worth what they paid out for it. Like, all your budgets for AAA games, like, that's probably your budget for games for, like, the next 3 or 4 years for first-party experiences, even with Bethesda.
Right.
That's fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
And that's only going to grow when Starfield comes out. Starfield and Halo are going to drive gigantic influxes.
Right.
We've never had a Halo game debut on this.
Right.
They're going to drive it. We saw the influx with the EA Play. EA Play and the Bethesda announcement drove probably about 3 or 4 million people to sign up between the last time we got numbers, which was in September, right before those announcements, and now we got an update on them like 2-3 weeks ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably going to see another influx in March now that all the Bethesda games have hit, but it'll be a smaller bump. Once you start seeing actual gameplays for these exclusives, and I think it was Jason Schreier who said over the summer, he said the day of the acquisition announcement, he says, moves like this and EA Play are how you go from 15 million to 30 million subscribers without even blinking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. We're seeing that as a slow climb. You're going to see an explosion with if Halo and Starfield both come out this fall, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we don't know if these are 18 million people who are just still currently subscribed or if that's just lifetime subscribers. Either way, it's doing significant enough business to fund these ID at Xbox deals, to fund these third-party deals. Like, not everything is hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, these indie games are just happy if you pay for the cost of development.
Mm-hmm.
Cost of development and whatever we would have made on another platform. Okay, cool. What would we have made in sales? Like, this is what we were projected to make. Can you at least cover that? This will fund our next game. I've seen indie studios who have said like this is funded easily our next project or two because people play it on there, and then when they find out it's leaving, or because they liked our game so much, they went ahead and just bought it.
Right.
Like I've been known to go buy indies again on the Switch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't do it as much anymore. Money's a little bit tighter, but like I try to buy if it's a Microsoft game and I really liked it, I try to buy some DLC for it. Like I'm gonna buy Outer Worlds DLC next week.
Yeah. I'm like you. Like I'll if there's an indie I like on Game Pass, I'll go probably double dip on Switch just because you know.
I want to make sure that developer, especially a small developer, is getting like AAA. I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know, unless it's a small team at a AAA studio, AAA company, I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. It's
like
at Microsoft. Like I'm probably never buying another Microsoft game again.
Yeah.
Frankly, I'll buy Halo because I love Halo and I want whatever sweet collector's edition they do.
Yeah.
Same with Elder Scrolls and Fallout and things like that. But Starfield, it's a new IP. I'm 100% buying that because I want them to see like, hey, we didn't all just buy it off game. We didn't all just play it on Game Pass. I actually bought this game.
You don't want a Gears 5 situation, right? Where like nobody bought that game because it was available on Game Pass. You know?
I mean, it's still sold 3-4 million copies, but yeah, I get it. It was on Game Pass. Like, who's going to run out and buy it? And I think that's the balancing act Microsoft has to get into.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't walk back on the promise of, oh, everything is available day one. That is still to this day my only real concern is how long is that a viable strategy?
Right.
And like you said, as long as it's still covering that cost, it's okay.
Right.
So we'll see. My biggest question after today is, can we go ahead and give the unknown team over at Obsidian control of Fallout? You want that? Because there's another team over at Obsidian that's like a 45 member team that we don't know what they're doing. Right. They're not doing Outer Worlds. They're not working on Avowed. And it's being led by one of the guys behind New Vegas and Pillars of Eternity. Can we please give them Fallout so that we're not waiting another like 8 or 9 years for Fallout 5?
Right.
I talked about this with our friend Ray. Trying to figure out what all these different teams are doing is kind of interesting because I think Microsoft is going to go, okay, the Dallas studio of Bethesda, for example, handles VR projects.
Mm-hmm.
How much VR are you guys really going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
You're not putting it on PlayStation. You can still put it on HTC, but I think even Microsoft is going to go, we'd rather you focus on our stuff.
Right.
Like rather than something that's only going to sell like 200,000 copies. Right. And it's coming like years after the regular version did.
Unless they have some like weird VR project that we don't know about, right?
HoloLens.
Yeah.
They're going to make HoloLens games. Oh my God.
Doom HoloLens.
Halo HoloLens. But hey, you have them. You have the Montreal
Josh,
studio.
Can you just rant for a second? I gotta go transfer my kid into her bed.
I can absolutely rant for a second.
Great.
You've got the Austin studio that did a lot of support on 76. They are helping out with to my knowledge, they're helping out with Starfield. I would not be shocked to see Bethesda Maryland, if they haven't already done it, transfer full ownership of Fallout 76 to the Austin branch of Bethesda to just let them go crazy with it. And then maybe you outsource to the Montreal studio, maybe you outsource the DLCs for Starfield or, the next Fallout 76 quest line, like whatever comes after Steel Dawn or something, so that you can free up Austin to work on, to help with Elder Scrolls 6 pre-production or something like that. You've got I was kind of going through what the team's probably, what the breakdown's probably going to be. Mm-hmm. How Dallas is definitely going to probably move on from VR stuff. How I think like either Austin or Montreal is going to be handed control of 76 because they want to keep that going. And the other one is going to probably do DLCs. Mm-hmm. For Starfield or whatever. Like one of the things I really liked in today's roundtable was talking about how these teams all collaborate with each other, even if they don't get the official credit on it. Like one of the monsters in Doom 2016 was designed by Tango. Mm-hmm. And how, we know that id helped out on they've helped out on the Wolfenstein games, how them and Arcane kind of collaborated on some of the Dishonored stuff. I would assume that means they're probably helping out with the gunplay and Deathloop. Mm-hmm. I think those are really, really cool things and those are core things. And like Microsoft's talking about that too. Like, hey, you know, our teams are doing that too. You know, we encourage that collaboration between our teams. Obviously, that was to me that was kind of a nod to how we all kind of figured out that Turn 10 and the Coalition were helping try to get Halo out the door last year.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of, you think about that, that's like kind of funny. Like, a racing group is trying to help get it out the door. And it's like, well, you look at the graphics in those, of course they were probably helping 343 out.
Right.
But I guess I'll wrap up. We've been talking for quite a while. And just say, I'm very excited about this. We've never seen a merger like this. I'm excited to see how it shakes out. Don't jump to conclusions just because they aren't going to be pumping out exclusives for the first like year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Don't jump to conclusions.
Yeah,
you know,
they still have contractual obligations for certain things.
They have contractual obligations. You know, as Phil said, you know, we've honored these through and through. You know, with Outer Worlds, Psychonauts 2 is still under one. Yeah, I know when Hellblade 2, a lot of people assumed like, oh well, you know, because it was existing before, you know, they'll probably release the sequel multiplat. No, like they acquire these because they want these studios, they want these IPs. They want this tech. Like, they want the talent behind these. They want these stories.
You don't spend 2 Star Warses on something to make it multi-platform.
You do not spend 2 Star Warses to make Elder Scrolls multi-platform. Like, I keep seeing people go like, well, you know, it's not going to sell as well. It's like, it not selling well still means it'll be the second best-selling game in the entire franchise by a large margin.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get a ton of subscribers. It's going to be at least midway through this generation by the time you see it.
And it's going to be on
People
PC.
Ready to buy like the redone console, the smaller mini fridge, so to speak.
Yeah.
Or they'll be on PCs, or they'll be playing it on their holographic TVs or on HoloLens or something. Like, people are going to be ready to buy Elder Scrolls 6 on every device.
Their Surface tablet.
I saw people joke that they want Todd Howard to come out on stage and announce one final Skyrim special edition for PS5 just so he can extort $70 from us one final time. It made me laugh, but it's like, honestly, like Phil wearing a Skyrim t-shirt today made me die laughing.
Yeah. Skyrim's on everything.
Todd to be wearing one, honestly.
Skyrim's on everything.
It's on everything, including Phil Spencer's chest. But no, the future is incredibly bright. I love the RPG arm that's developed at Microsoft. You know, with Bethesda, with ZeniMax Online, with Obsidian, and their 15 billion teams apparently.
Mm-hmm.
In Exile has 2 studios going. You know, one in New Orleans, one in California. And of course, Playground Games making their first RPG, and it's a doozy. It's Fable.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really exciting time. Like, if you like RPGs or you like story shooters with really, really well done stories and mechanics, like, I don't think there's a better place to be playing right now. And obviously, again, quality over quantity. Like, this could all blow up in my face 18 months from now.
Right.
But I really feel like they finally have nailed it down. This is the culmination. This is the Starry Night. This is the Michelangelo painting in the cathedrals. Like, this is, you know, the whatever you want to call it. This is the pinnacle of what they've been doing for years now.
Yeah.
I do still think there's probably an acquisition or two to come. We said we'd mention it on this. Just real quickly, I still do think there's a couple small ones to come. I don't think another major one is coming, though. I really don't.
I still think they're going to try to acquire a Japanese studio.
Maybe I think they will try to get it.
I was going to say, I know Mistwalker's doing a lot of mobile stuff now. I could see them trying to go after them again and, like,
I could too.
Doing something. You know. By the way, did you see their new RPG on mobile?
I did not.
Oh my gosh, dude! The entire game is yeah, you saw that. It's fine. It's my caffeine addiction box. It's empty. Their whole game is a diorama. Like, it's a full blown 16-bit RPG, but all of the assets are handmade dioramas.
Like, I have seen this. I have seen this, actually.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah, I still think that Phil is trying to figure out how to get into that market, and I still really think it's going to end up being a deal with Sega or Altus, not necessarily to acquire them, but to extend like the Yakuza deal. Like, hey, maybe we'll get Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Royale over here.
Yeah.
Phantom Strikers will come out. There's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah.
Along with Square Enix, like they got to start getting some sort of exclusive on the JRPG side, though. And I do agree. Like, I think a Japanese company is probably the only thing that they still have left to go for. I do think that they'll probably try to acquire a more traditional horror studio, though. We heard the rumors last summer that they were trying to acquire a Polish developer, and that really only leaves a couple of options that are not CD Projekt Red. That leaves Bloober, Techland, which I think Techland has just destroyed themselves and is completely out of the running now.
Yeah.
If I had to guess,
are they?
They're absolutely out of it with how badly that company's run. The only way they could do it is if the CEO and like the entire senior leadership resigned at this point. And I just don't know if they could get them to do it. I don't really want them to buy them, though. Dying Light did not impress me. I'm sorry. I don't see what everybody else did in that game.
And
they've already got a zombie team in State of Decay. Undead Labs. Like, they move away from that too. If anything, I think there's two possibilities here. I think if the Polish angle is still going, you go for them. You go for them being Bloober Team. I think they really liked the Medium. They clearly have a relationship with them.
The Medium clearly did well, even though it got kind of mediocre reviews. It clearly did well. That's the story.
That's the story of a Bloober Team game. It got mediocre reviews, but it did okay. The only other one I think that they would really probably make a push for, and this all depends on how this game shapes up, is Interior Night. To have a Quantic Dream style studio under their banner, or at least have like that relationship, like maybe not outright buy them, but have that really strong second party connection like they used to with Remedy.
Right.
And I mean, I think that really, I think the acquisitions are done. I think Microsoft has seen the reaction to the Final Fantasy 16 and Project Athia deals and has gone, okay, we need to partner with other studios. We need to do second party exclusives now. There is the huge rumor going around right now that they are going to do something with Kojima. Because everybody read into the fact that the Kojima mascot statue is on Phil's shelf. Like, the joke is now every time that Phil shows up on something, everyone just looks into his
everyone
background.
Now, because Todd Howard had all that Indiana Jones stuff before the Indiana Jones announcement.
Well, and that was the joke. Like, as soon as the pan down happened for the round table, Wario64 clipped the shot and was like, all right, everybody, look at the backgrounds. And it was just like, it's funny. It's funny to think about it that way, but that's the point that we're at, because they know, like, the diehards are going to find this and obsess over it.
Yeah, well, there's that rumor that the Death Stranding, whatever the definitive edition is called, is coming to Xbox as well as PlayStation and PC also.
I'm gonna poo-poo that one because I did a little bit of digging, and I do believe that Death Stranding is owned by Sony. That IP is not.
It was fun. It was partially funded by Sony. I know that.
Yeah, I think it's a Sunset Overdrive situation. Like, they control the IP now. So who knows? I mean, I hope that their second party deals go better than this last one, but they clearly don't have as much reliance on those now. Like, I think they're going to outright try and make third party deals and not publish them.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, here you go. Like, you want to play it first? You can play it here. You can play it a year later everywhere else. Like, I think that's how Stalker and Gunk are going to play out, for example. Bright Memory will probably play out that way.
Right.
Like, it's all about driving consumers to your platform at the end of the day.
Right. Right. Well, Josh, we're going to end this conversation.
We are.
This is a good one. I'm extremely excited for the future of Xbox and Game Pass and wherever else they decide to put this stuff.
I am. I want to see what comes this month. People, Windows Central broke the story earlier about March 26th that we're going to get a future of Xbox presentation, which we know is basically going to be tech. But then they also followed up and says, hey, there's going to be mini events in April and May leading into E3 as well. So who knows? I hope it's another third-party showcase, maybe an Indies one at some point, a better version of what we got last May. Yeah. Bring it on. I'm here for it. You've got too much to put into one show now.
I know.
And that's a good problem to have.
Especially if you're going to start doing Inside Xbox and then like Xbox Game Fest every year, Fan Fest every year now. And
XO21 is almost certainly going to happen at this point, even if it's a digital event.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like we see, they show things at Game Awards. They're probably going to do something with Jeff Keighley this summer. There's so many possibilities now, and you have so many games that only got cinematic trailers last year that are probably ready for prime time now.
Right.
Like it's a great time to be a fan of Xbox.
Remember like a year ago when we were like, man, what does Xbox have? And now there's like too much. This is almost too much.
I mean, I remember saying that like a month ago, going, what do they have? And then like, because you sit down and you think like, oh my God, they've got all these games in development. They've got all of Bethesda's slate now. It's like, we got to see gameplay. We got to see something tangible from these. Like CG trailers can only hold my hype for so long. It's been 8 or 9 months. Give me some meat, guys.
Right.
I want to feast. Jason Ronald did not help this last week on Iron Lords when he said there are still exclusives for 2021 they have not talked about or shown yet.
Right.
That did not help my situation here.
No, it did not. No. All right, we're going to get out of here. What do you guys think? Leave a comment below. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you want. Are you excited? Let us know. Josh, thank you for joining me on this conversation.
Dude, always. Thank you for having me.
We will see you next time. If you're watching live, we're going to record Tower Casuals now. Goodbye.